Welcome back, Dram Fam, to another episode on the Whisky Diary. So you're here because you want to know my favourite moments of 2021? Let me explain. Well, that's 2021 over and done with. Now, I thought I'd take an opportunity to reflect on my first year on YouTube, or my first year in whiskey, to be honest, and go over some of the experiences I've had. Now, first of all, I just want to thank absolutely everyone that's watched, liked, commented and subscribed. I think at the time of shooting, we're at about 491 subscribers, which is absolutely phenomenal. Considering I didn't shoot for maybe 5 months of the year, unfortunately life got in the way a little bit. I'm just so grateful for the incredible experiences that I've been able to have over the last year, and I'm thoroughly enjoying drinking whiskey, learning about whiskey and sharing that with everyone. So thank you all so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. I wanted to talk about some of my highlights of the year. Now, I know it's that time of year when all of the whiskey YouTubers do their whiskey of the year, and it's awesome. You know, everyone's got one, and that's incredible. I've seen some absolutely fantastic whiskies floating around, but I didn't feel like that's something that I wanted to do this year. Firstly, it's only my first year in whiskey, so pretty much every whiskey that I've had has been a new experience for me, and I don't feel like I'm quite ready to firstly commit to any particular whiskey and say I believe this is the best whiskey of this year, because I haven't had enough experience. Moreover, I don't think it really matters for me to pick a particular single whiskey of the year. I haven't seen the progression. I might pick a whiskey and everyone's like, well, you know, it was much better in the previous years. So I thought it would be better if I just went over. I mean, I think I've selected six whiskies, which for me have just been incredible. And they're the ones I want to share. So without further ado, you probably all know this was coming. The Kingsbarns 100% STR. This is my first experience of STR casks, and it was one of my first experiences of Kingsbarns whiskey. This just blows me away, man. This has been like one of the first whiskies I tried where I was like, whoa, that is another level. 59.8 cask strength. It was one of the first cask strength whiskies that I tried and was like, that's not violent. That's fairly easy drinking. It's such a beautiful flavour with the sweet, kind of toasty and jammy notes, the underpinning spiciness, incredibly long finish, incredibly moorish, and for me just incredibly balanced. For me, this is an example of an exceptional whiskey, and considering it's a no age statement, super young whiskey, you know, I'm incredibly impressed by it, and it will remain to be one of my all-time favourite whiskies on that shelf behind me. Hence why this one's capped, and I'm probably going to open this, you know, it's kind of a wedding day whiskey, I think. But anyway, moving on to the next. The Glendronach 15. Now, this is a 15-year-old Highland. I mean, it's practically a Speyside, but it's a 15-year-old Highland, heavily sherried. It's an absolute sherry bomb. 15-year-old age statement, 65 pounds or thereabouts at the moment. It is, in my opinion, just one of the biggest, juiciest examples of a heavily sherried whiskey. I was introduced to Glendronach by Chris at the Pot Still, and I tried it in the pub and just went straight online and bought a bottle. I may have had a few drams when I did that, but I'm glad I did. It's just a good whiskey, man. Like, it's just good. I mean, I've had this a couple of months now, and I'm just chewing through this bottle at a rate of knots. And this is not the first bottle of this that I'm going to have. So, yeah, Glendronach 15, an absolutely incredible example of a big, juicy sherry bomb of a whiskey. Very similar to the Glenallachie 12. This was one of the first whiskies that I ever bought. From my own research and kind of looking around, perusing the market, this was one of the first things that I selected by myself, and I don't know how I found it, but I'm bloody glad I did. This is a 12-year-old Speyside. Again, it's full of sherry. It's sherry to the max, and it's for the same reasons I like the Glendronach, I like this, but this is just a little bit more of a brighter fruit flavour. It's a little bit younger, and it tastes a little bit younger, and I'm not against that at all. I pretty much put these two whiskies in very much the same sort of lineage, but the Glendronach's a little bit older, like a little bit more rounded, a little bit more leathery, a little bit more wood, whereas the Glenallachie's got a little bit more juice, a little bit more fruit, and a little bit brighter. I love them both equally as much, and again, this is an example why I don't want to choose a whiskey of the year. If it came down to these two, I would not be able to choose between them. So, moving on to another sherry bomb, I guess. Christmas cake and dark chocolate and medjool dates and cinnamon. From Atom Brands, 48%, 8-year-old Speyside single malt. If this isn't one of these two, I'd be very, very surprised. And if not, I want to know the distillery it came from. This, I mean, again, I've had this not very long at all, and I'm more than halfway through the bottle. It's like 35 quid or something, about that. And it's lovely. It's such a good whiskey. I guess, again, this is another one where I'd kind of put it in the same lineage as these two, as the Glendronach and the Glenallachie, but again, this one's a little bit younger, a little bit juicier. From this, I get a little bit more chocolate. I mean, Christmas cake and dark chocolate, right? I get a little bit more of those darker notes from it. So it's between these. If ever I'm looking for that big, juicy, sherry hit, it's one of these three I'm going to go to, and depending on how I feel at that moment, it could be any one of them. But I cannot believe how cheap this is and how good it is for the price. So that's why it's made it into one of my top whiskies of the year. Now, something a little bit out there. The Mackmyra Björksov. This is a Swedish whiskey. I have reviewed this on the channel. I've reviewed the Glenallachie and I've reviewed the Christmas cake, dark chocolate, medjool dates, and cinnamon. I got it, I remembered it. I've reviewed this one too. I love this. This is such an interesting whiskey. Finished in Björksov, which is birch sap wine casks. It's got such a bright, fruity freshness to it. It's not something I'd ever really experienced before in the whiskey world. And so when I came across this for the first time, I really struggled to get my head around, why is this different? Why is this so out there from sort of the rest of the whiskey? Well, to me, it's not really. It's just a fantastic whiskey that just so happens to be made in Sweden. Takes those influences from Swedish, I mean, I guess it's not drinking culture, is it? It's more Swedish alcohol. Like the birch sap wine is not something we have here in Scotland. Well, if we do, I've never heard of it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's why it's made it onto my whiskey of the one of my whiskies of 2021. It's just great. And again, if I'm looking for something that's the opposite of these, I want something light, floral, easy drinking, this is what I'll go to. Fantastic whiskey from a distillery that I'm really, really interested in seeing what they release in the next year. So, finally, on the subject of weird casks, we have the Glen Murray Warehouse 1 Tokai finish. Now, it was a toss-up between this and the Manzanilla cask. So Manzanilla cask. But I went with this. And the reason I went with the Tokai finish is for the same reason that I like the Bjorksov. It's a bit different. It's a stunning whiskey, as is the Manzanilla. Again, maybe I do prefer the Manzanilla just a touch. But I've got other Manzanilla cask finishes on my shelf. I'd never heard of Tokai when I tried this for the first time. But those super interesting cask, sort of funky notes that come through, it's just different from anything else I've got here. If anyone walked into this room and said, pick something, I think over 136 odd bottles on there, and someone went, I want something completely different, it'd be down to these two, because these are not casks that we see at all. I mean, I've never heard of either of these casks before in my life. I didn't even know these things were in casks. So to have a whiskey that's finished in them and really convey the nature and the flavour of that. I mean, I've had birch sap wine previously. I've never had Tokai, but I can have a damn good guess at what it tastes like, because I feel like this whiskey has the right influence of that cask in it. And so, these are my favourite whiskies of 2021. There's probably more up there that I've missed and forgotten about, but I'm happy to say that these were some of my personal highlights. Now, I know a lot of people kind of put some constraints on their selections, like availability. Now, other than the King's Barnes 100% STR, all of these whiskies at present are currently available, and they're all relatively reasonably priced. I think the most expensive would be the King's Barnes, which is around £86 a bottle, I believe. But the rest you could go and buy today. If you want to go and buy them, I'll drop some links in the description down below. They are affiliate links. You pay no extra, but I get a little bit of a kickback whenever you buy them, just in the interest of transparency and full disclosure. You'll notice that there is nothing peated up here, and this year for me was not the year of peat. I recently went to Islay. I had an absolutely fantastic time. I have been working on a video. I did get some great footage while I was over there, but I don't feel like I'm quite ready yet to put that into a single video. I mean, at the moment I've cut down the footage and it's about 30 minutes long, so I'm kind of deciding what I'm going to do with it. I drank some fantastic whiskies out there. I've got a limited edition Kilchoman Mackay Bay, which is absolutely phenomenal. But this year was the year of the Sherry Bomb and weird casks for me. I'm really, really excited for 2022 in the world of whiskey. I think, right now a lot more distilleries and a lot more producers are coming forward with more innovation, more interesting casks, and there's less fear to put out those slightly more out there whiskies for fear of them being shunned by the whiskey community. I'm super excited to see what McMurray are going to bring out. I'm super excited to see more of the Warehouse One whiskies from Glenmorangie. I'm really excited to see what Glenallachie do next. King's Barnes is going to produce some fantastic whiskey, I'm sure of it. The Clyde side, dead interesting to see what they come out with in the coming years. Obviously, they've only just come of age, really bottling their 3-year-old, which is great for a 3-year-old, but I'm so excited to see what they do going forward. Even Atom Brands, they with their Seaweed and Eons and Digging and Fire, which was incredibly well received. Christmas Cake, Dark Chocolate, Medjool Dates and Cinnamon. This is incredible. What else have they got? They're obviously heading in the right direction. So I think we're going to be spoilt for choice in 2022. And I can't wait to share all of that whiskey with you. But anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you all very, very much for watching. If you've liked this video, please do hit the like button. If you would like to support the channel, please do consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, hit that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload. And on that note, I've forgotten I didn't pour myself a whiskey at the beginning of this. 1 minute. The Glenmorangie. stunning. Slanjava,